All right. Am I audible, everyone? Just to check. All right. We'll be starting with the session in another 5 minutes. Let's just wait for everybody else to join. Till then, I'll set up the PPT and everything. Thank you. All right, everyone. Let's start. Hello, everyone. I'll be taking a session on Backstage of the web, Node.js and Express. Today, I'll be teaching how to build like a simple, very simple CRUD app using Node.js and Express and MongoDB to store the data. So let's go ahead. Okay, so for today's agenda is what is a backend, introduction to CRUD, setting up the development environment, overview of the application, and at the end we'll have a hands-on session. And I'll also show how to deploy the app on render using your GitHub repository. And at the very end of the session, I'll talk a little bit more about going beyond Node.js. All right. Okay, so introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Shivam Sharma. I'm a senior core member here at CodeChef-VIT. I'm a full stack developer and I mainly do web development here. Okay, so in today's session, we'll be building a simple CRUD app using Node.js and Express. Okay, so what is backend? And how is it different from front end? In programming, the term backend refers to the server side of a software application. It consists of the code and infrastructure that runs on the server and handles processing, storage, and retrieval of data. Basically, the front end is the website part which you load on your phone or your laptop. And whenever that website requests data or anything, it basically talks to the server and the server gives a response of the data. So that's what a backend essentially is. The backend is responsible for managing the business logic, data validation, and database interactions, and any communication that may happen with the front end or the client side of the application. Okay, moving forward. Okay, so what is Node.js? Node.js is an open source server-side JavaScript runtime environment built on Chrome's V8 JavaScript engine. Basically, what it is, before the introduction of Node.js, you could only run JavaScript files on the browser. So a guy thought, well, let's try to run it locally also. So he basically went and created Node.js, which helps you run JavaScript files locally on your system as well. So Node.js provides an event-driven, non-blocking I/O model, which makes it lightweight and efficient for building scalable and high-performance network applications. It is so popular right now that it is also used by Netflix, Uber, and many others. So Node.js is really good for building web applications for our backend purposes and other stuff also. Okay, let's go forward. Now, what is CRUD and the importance of CRUD? CRUD basically refers to create, read, update, and delete. It represents the four basic operations or functions that are commonly associated with persistent storage, such as databases, in context of data management. Basically, your web application will have essentially four basic functions, which will be creating data, reading data from the database, and updating data in the database through your web application, and deleting data. So the create just refers to operation involving new entities or records in a data storage system, for example, a database like Mongo or Postgres. Read refers to the read operation, considered concerned with retrieving or reading existing data from a data storage system. Update, the update operation is used to modify or update existing data in a data storage system, and the delete operation is responsible for simply deleting the data. Okay, so let's move forward. Okay, setting up the development environment. Before we move on with our hands-on session and start creating a very simple CRUD app, you'll have some prerequisites. First of all, you need to have Node.js installed on your system. So you can go online and just search how to install Node.js. Basically, you need to install the Node environment so we can run our Node server. And then Express.js. Express.js is basically a library which will help us run our web application. It is a framework you built for Node.js, which can help make our web application. Okay, MongoDB. MongoDB is just a NoSQL database, which means basically it is a document type database. Instead of having any relations or anything, you store data like in a document, like in a page, you would write entries and records. So it's like that. It has no relations, but it's still using this because it's a very simple example today. And finally, we'll just need a code editor, for example, VS Code, which we'll be using today. Okay, an overview of the application. So our application structure will, when we'll be building a CRUD app, will look like this. So there'll be a main entry point to the application, which is the index.js, basically the start of the application. Whenever you're running a server, we'll only run this index.js file. It'll import all the other functions and controllers from the other parts. And the second layer is basically the routes. So the user route or the product route. So whenever we build a web application, we have something which are called routes. The routes specify which action takes place. For example, if we call /user /all, it'll call the all the users in the database and give us as a response. And after this, we have the third layer, which is the user controller or the product layer. Basically, whenever a route is called, which function is called is determined by the user controller or the product controller. So for example, if we call the /user /find, so in the user controller, it will call the find user controller. So that's how it works. And the last layer is our utils and services. Basically, we can store our business logic of the application here. For example, utils can store anything from like a token validator or a JWT validator, and services can hold our business logic, for example, for calculating something or any etc. Okay, guys, now finally we'll move on to our hands-on session where we'll be building a very basic CRUD app using Express and Node.js. All right, just let me start sharing my screen again. All right, so I've just opened my terminal here. So as you can see, I just created a folder called Backend session. Here we'll be making all of our code and other stuff. So let me just write code dot so I can start my VS Code. All right, here we are at VS Code. So first of all, we create a first file, which is called index.js. Just let me go back to it. Okay, so let's create a file, index.js. This will be the root file, which we run using the command node index. And this will basically start up our server. All right, just give me one more second. All right, so as I told you before, we'll be using Express as a framework to basically run our web application. So let me just do a const express is equal to require express. So we have imported express here, and I'll just do a const app is equal to express. And to finally start a server, we can just simply write app.listen. And here we can add the port number on which our app will be accessible. For example, we'll write 8080 and a function to just if it to tell that it started here. We'll just do a console.log and just say server. Okay, all right, just give me one sec. All right. So it started at port 8080. All right. So if we try to run, before we running this, we need to do one more thing, which I just forgot. We also need to install Express. So just let it install, just write npm I express, and we'll be installing a few more other packages. Just hold on for a minute. Okay, npm I express, express has been installed. All right. Just let me run it again. Just let me be sure it is running. Yeah. Hmm. All right, just give me one second. Oh yeah. Okay, please forgive me. I just forgot one thing. Before we start a node project, we just need to do npm init. You just write the package name is this. This all doesn't matter. All right. npmi. And now the npmi express will work. All right. And node modules are added now. Forgive me for that. Just a simple mistake. I forgot to add that. And now let's just try to start our server. I'll just do node index.js. And as you can see, our server has now started at port 8080. And if I just go to my browser or anything like that, for example, I just write localhost 8080 and slash. As you can see, okay, there's no route for now, but like the server is still started. All right. So this is a basic web app, like the most bare bones of it. The server has just started, and now let's try to add something else. Now let's try to add a route. So to add a route, you can just simply write app.get, and app.this will indicate what type of route it is. So it is a get route. And here we can say the route is basically a slash, and just make a function also, which will be called. All right. So let's just send a response also. So here we'll be sending a very simple response. Just say hello world. All right. So one more thing, even though I've saved this, I'll have to restart the servers because the previous changes would have not taken effect. So So there's something called hot reloading. So whenever you save your code, the server will restart again. Instead of using Node to start a server, there's another library which is called Nodemon. So whenever you save your code, it restarts the server. So you can just do npmi nodemon and I'll wait for the install finish. Just give me a sec. Okay, so if I just do nodemon index now, whenever I save my file on VS Code, it'll also restart the server. All right. Let me just go here. And as you can see, whenever I just click save, it restarted the server also. All right. So I made a very simple route, which is app.get. And just let me, before I test it, just give me a sec. Okay. Now if I go to this, now that I made this route, it'll return hello. Okay. Oh, just give me one sec. Just forgot to write something. All right. So, okay, not here. Oops. It'll come here. Just give me, I'll just explain what all of this means in 1 second. Just let me, yeah, hello world. So as you can see, you've got hello world here over here because there's a get. Okay, if there's a get route, you can just open it on the browser as well instead of using a dedicated testing agent such as Postman or Thunder Client. All right. So that we have made a like very basic get route. Let me just add like so you can use a route like this to just check if your server is working or not. Like sometimes if you've made like deployed into production or anything and you want to check your server if it's been deployed properly, you can just do this. So yeah, it just returns ping and pong. Okay. One more thing I'll explain is what is this rec and res object. So the rec object basically contains a request. I'll just log it to you, log it for you. So the rec object basically is a request body. It contains all the parameters of the request, and the res is basically a response. So we can just use the function res.send to send a response whenever this route is called. All right. So as you can see at the end of this route, I'm just calling res.send pong. So when this route is getting hit, it is also sending pong. So for you, I just log the request object as well. I'll hit this route again. And as you can see in the terminal, we can see our request body as well. Request body is like pretty big. It can contain all the parameters, cookies, and headers that are attached to the request as well. Okay, just moving on forward. So we've done our basic stuff. Let's talk about our routes. Before talking about routes, let's connect to MongoDB or let's connect to MongoDB using Mongoose. So Mongoose is a library which we can use in Node.js to interact with our MongoDB database. All right. So for that also we'll just do const Mongoose require. All right. Oops. All right. Let's just do Mongoose. All right. And let me just copy our Mongoose part from a previous project that I have. So you can just use this function to connect to our Mongoose instance, sorry, a MongoDB database. Okay, so what is this basically? So basically, we are just running a mongoose.connect, and here we are feeding our database URI, which is basically where the database is, the database link basically. I'll add this in a second. It's fine. And these are just some connection settings. You don't need to worry about that. You can just go to MongoDB Atlas and create a new Mongoose database. And it'll also give you how to connect to it. So just copy this part from there. And now, so as you can see, we are using an environment variable to get our MongoDB URI, so nobody else can access us. It is a secret file. So let me just add this, a .env. Here we can store our secrets. Just give me 1 second. Babu? Oh, man. All right, please forgive me. There was this attendance right now. Okay, we'll just start back. Okay, so as I was saying, I need to add the secret to the MongoDB URI as well. So I'll just copy this from here. I'll go here and just as you can see, you just need to go to the .env. You always need to place it in the root folder of a project. So as you can see, I've done MongoDB URI.env. Just let me get the .env from here. So this is a connection URI. Okay, I've pasted this, and when we start the server, it should show MongoDB connected as well. All right, just let me go down. Okay. Oh yeah, just before I just start, we need to install Mongoose as well. So we'll just install all the dependencies that we'll need right here only. So we'll need a .env and Mongoose to connect to our database. And just let me check. Okay, that's the only things we need. All right, they're installed. Just let me restart the server. All right. Oh yeah, just let me reload it again. Okay. And just let me go back to index.js. Okay. Okay, one more thing to use the environment variables that you've loaded, you just need to add one more thing on the top, which is require dot env and config. All right. So as you can see, now it should start working. Just let me run a node index as well. And yeah, as you can see, MongoDB connected. All right, finally. Okay, let's just get started. I'll just explain what routes are. Okay, so basically, a route is basically how it handles what type of request is coming, like what type of resource you're trying to access. You can define it using routes. So let me just add a route. Let's add a route folder. Okay, let's add a routes folder. And here we'll add a user route. So we'll be creating a database in which a user his email and his password is stored. So this is the user.js. Let's go back and we can just do an app.use, app.use, and we can just specify which route it is. So it is the user's route. So all the requests will be forwarded to the users. Wait, and just add a, before we just do, we just need to import the users.js file we just made. So just user router is equal to require. Let me just add the dot slash. Let's go to the routes and the user. All right. So the app will crash for a minute because we still haven't set up our user.js. But till then, let me just add this. All right. So user router is now set up in the index. I will just go here and let me just set this part also up. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Const. To say, okay, to use the routes, we also need to import Express here again. So let's just do Express. Is okay, I'll just copy this from here. It's fine why I'm editing. Okay. All right. Let's do this. Then we need to make a router. So router is equal to express router. All right. Okay, this all is fine. Okay, so we can just make a really basic router. So we'll just do a router.get and we'll specify which route it is. For example, it is the all route and return all the users, even though we haven't connected to any DB right now, but that's fine. So let's just do a log here, console log, like all users. So just to show that the route works. Okay, all right. And let me just do one more thing, refresh. Add this again because we need to add this. Also send the same thing. Or users. All right, this should be fine. All right. So if I try to hit this route again, wait, let me just. One more thing. After you're done with writing all the routes, you need to export them. So I'll do right here. So I'll just call the model.exports is equal to router. All right. We should be fine now. Okay, award is not defined, routers is not defined. Router.express, let's see if router. 1 second. Okay, I just wrote the wrong thing. It shouldn't be route, it's just router. All right. So the app should be started now. Okay, the app is started. I'll just go over here, just try to use the route. So we'll just write users slash all. As you can see, the route is now being called. So why we could have written it like this, like app.user slash all also, but we try to not like add all everything over here because it feels congested, and we try to separate everything into a folder structure like this. So everything can be very plug and play. You can use the same router file in another project as well, and it becomes very modular. Okay, so here we have a first route done, and now we'll define a schema. So schema is just basically goes under the models folder. It basically defines how our user model will look when it's stored in the database. Okay, just let me go over to the models. Let's just write a user.js, and I'll just take the schema from a previous folder of mine. So here's how the schema looks, and here's how we define it. All right. So we just do a const mongoose require mongoose, and we define the user schema like this, like a const user schema equal new mongoose schema. Here we can define the name, like the email and the type of it, like string, and the password and string. And here at the end, we can just write model to text ports is equal to mongoose.model user, the name of the schema, and and just import it. All right, export it over here. And now we'll try to import it in our routes as well. Just let me go back. All right, let's go back to the routes. Let's go back to user. Okay, we are here, and we'll just export it here. Const user is equal to require dot slash. Okay, all right. Dot slash. Let's go to the models, the user, and here we have successfully imported the user model from our models folder. All right. So because we're building a very basic CRUD application, we need to have all four operations, which is create, read, update, and delete. So we'll start making all our four of our routes, which will basically a create route, a update route, a delete route, and a find all route. So we can just see all of our users. So let's just get started on that. So first, let's just create a create route. So we'll just do a router.post. So this will be a post request because we'll be sending data in the request as well. In a get request, you can't send data in the body, whereas in a post request, you can send data. So I'll just be getting started with this. So let's just do it a create. So whenever you hit user slash create, it'll create a new user. Just add vector address and just complete this arrow function over here, and let's just get started. All right. All right, let's just wrap everything in a try catch. So if we get any errors, we can just throw a response that an error was detected. So to create a new user, we can simply just write const new user. Just write const new user is equal to new user. And here we can just write the user details. For example, the email will come from the rec.body dot email. So we basically will in the request body we'll be sending the email as well as the password. So let's just write password dot body dot password. All right. And after the user has been created, we'll also have to call an await function and just write new user dot save. All right. Okay, so now you guys will be thinking, why is there like a red squiggly line under the await? Because we cannot use an await function in a normal function. On the top, before the request and response, we'll have to write a sync. So basically, we need to make an asynchronous function, and then only then we can call await inside this. And now you might ask, what is an asynchronous function? An asynchronous function is basically a function which returns a promise, and the await keyword basically helps stop the execution of the code. Basically, nothing will execute under this code. So if there's some code here, it won't run until this line is resolved. All right. So that's like a quick explanation. And let's go add one more thing. Need to add one more thing in the index.js also, which is app.use express.json. So this will help us parse our body, the request body, so we can use it in our routes as I've shown. Okay, so let's try to create a new user and hopefully it gets created. Oh yeah, one more thing, if the user is created, we'll just give a response that the new user has been created. All right, let's just add the response. So we'll add a res.status 200. The status 200 means the request is successful, and we'll just return using the JSON field, which is this, and we'll just do user is new user. All right, so this should work. Let me just go to Postman. So I'll just create, try using all of the, try all the requests that we used today using Postman. So it is a post request. So let's just select post. It is running on localhost 8080 and the user's route. Let's just go to create. And as you can see, we've already added the email and the password. Okay, if you want, you can just go to the raw, select JSON, and then you can just edit this. And now let's try to send a request. Hopefully it works. All right, so as you can see, a user has been successfully created and returned as well. So the new user is like, I just added some garbage values in the email, like the G, like these of them, and the ID is also returned. So this ID is the Mongo ID. We'll be using this ID to retrieve the user as well in the few next controller. Okay. Okay, so we have a create route now done. Let's get started now on a find route, which will basically basically take the ID of the user and return the details of the user. Okay, just let me go back here and let's just do the route dot get to make a new route, and let's just add a rect.res. Basically, just write everything similar, same. All right. So what is this colon/id? So whatever part comes after this will be treated as like a variable. So we can access this part after the route by just using const id is equal to rec dot params dot id. So we can access this id part of the route by just doing this. And now we'll try to find the user in a database. Just let me go const id params dot id, and we can just do a const. Okay, so to find a user, let's make a new variable which is const find user await. And let's just me write async also here because we are using the await keyword again here. So we just call user dot find by ID. So you can just pass the ID of the user here and it'll find the user. All right, simple. And now if the user has been found, let's just return a res dot status 200 JSON user and find user. All right. But in case the user has not been found, it will return a null result. So we can just do that also. If the user is not found, we can just write res.status 400.json just an error message in case the user isn't found. All right, so let's try to test this route also. Let's go to Postman, take the ID of the user we just created, and just fit this guy here. And as it is a get route, we'll just do get. Okay, I don't want to save this. All right, so let's just do this. As you can see, we found the user, the one we stored in the database. Okay, so the find user route also works. Let's just create another route which basically find all the users in the database. Let's go here and let's just so we'll just create as like just start creating it here. So it'll be a router that it will also be a get route similar to the previous one. Let's just make a slash all, write async again because we'll be probably using the async await keyword again. Okay, so just start with the try catch. All right. So to find all the users, we can just do const users is equal to await user dot find. All right. And once they have been found, we can just do and basically do the same as here. Let me just copy this part. Let me just remove this. Users is null. Users not found. And in case all the users are found, we can just write this and we can send an error in case some error has happened. Wait, let me just do this. Users and all right. All right. Just let me just complete this over here. Okay, so this route. So we have also created a slash all route. So it will return all the users. Let's try creating some bogus more users so we can see this route. Just add hello at gmail.com, post this route, change this to create. हो गया create. Okay, all right. So let's say jello123 a world at gmail.com. This is also created. Now let's try to run an all route. Okay. Okay, I want to save this. So if we run this route, as you can see, all the new users we've created, all of them have returned an array. So you can just feed this to the front end, and the front end can basically map over this array and display all the users. Okay, so we're done halfway through our routers or all the controllers. Let's just make an update route as well. So if we want to update the user, so we for that we'll just write router.patch. Patch is used when you need to update. So let's just add. We'll do the same. Basically do this. All right. We'll do this ID and just write async regress again because of course it'll be again an asynchronous function. And just copy this part again because okay, not this part, just let's just copy this part because it'll look really similar. And just so we'll first try to find the user instead. Let me go to the path route, find by ID and update. All right, updated user. All right. So let's just change to updated user. And then I'll need to copy one more line of code. Yeah, basically this. All right. So it'll look like this. So basically we do a user dot find by ID and update. Basically finds the user and updates him, takes the ID also of the user, and new equal true basically returns the updated, basically updates the updated user values to the updated user. All right, so we also call this, okay, we don't call this, all right, let me just remove this part, and we can just send the updated user back as a response. And in the error, if there's any error, that is, if there's any error in our server, we can just return a status.500 and JSON, and we can just do error dot message and return any errors. If the server crashes or something, it returns an error. Or if the route fails, actually, if the server crashes, there will be nothing returned. Okay, let's just go back to Postman. Take the ID of this world at Gmail, for example. Put this value here because it's a patch request. Let's try to change the password instead. Let's just do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, just give me 1 second. We ran into a small error. I think I forgot to define the ID. Yeah, forgot to define the ID. So we'll just do a const ID, set.params.id. Okay, here we are getting the ID also now. Let's just send this. Okay, as you can see, our user has also been updated. So we have done create, read, update, and this is just one more thing, which is delete. Okay, so let's just do the delete route real quick also. And let's just go with a route dot delete. Add, make it similar. So if we give the ID like this here, we can just add it over here, rect.trace. All right. So let's just take the ID again until, unless I forget it, it will be sad. We're getting the ID here. And now to delete the user, it is again very simple. Let's just wrap everything in a try catch. So if anything fails, the server will return an error. So const delete it. Let's just write it as deleted user is equal to await. And Mongo is it is kind of simple to use because the functions are like really simple. So we can, it's again find by ID and delete instead of update this time. And we will just pass the ID and the user will get deleted and we'll just write. If there was no user found, the deleted user will be null. Let's just go ahead and return this. Where is this? Yeah, okay, the user not found. All right, user not found. Okay, so let's just return status 200 if the user has been found. All right, let's just return a message saying user has been deleted. All right, fine. So the user should be deleted if I pass the ID and it's a delete route. So we'll just try to run this as well. So this is our user, the world at Gmail with the password of 123 and something. Just try to run the delete route now. And if I pass the ID again, it will delete the user. And as you can see, this has been deleted. Just to check, we'll just try to do a get user. We'll try to get this user. It'll say user not found. And you can also check this. We're just saying all. And as you can see, the world at Gmail has disappeared. Yeah. So this completes our basic CRUD operations in MongoDB, Node.js and Express. So now so we're almost at the end of our hands-on session. I'll show you one more thing, how to deploy your apps. Okay, just let me go back. I'll just show how to deploy the apps. All right. So how to deploy? Okay, so there are four very simple ways which you can deploy your apps. Either you can just run it locally on your server and port forward the server to expose it to the world and then access it from anywhere. But like those are kind of tough. So I'll just show you a very easy method. Render is like a free way where you can just push your code to a GitHub repository and just deploy it for free. Fly is also a server in which you can get three free servers and it can handle small apps for production, like well enough, but still there's only a limit of three servers. Then there's the DigitalOcean Droplet, which can be used to deploy medium-sized apps that need to be robust and fast, where you're actually deploying them for production. And then there's AWS, and then there is AWS, which is for deploying more costly, robust, and scalable large-size projects. Basically, companies use AWS to deploy their apps instead of using free alternatives like Droplet. So because they can scale really well and can be used for large-scale projects. Okay, so we'll just make a GitHub repository and deploy this using Render, which is like a free. Okay, just unselect .env. Never push .env to your GitHub repository because it holds all the secrets of your web application and node modules as well. That's a common mistake a lot of people make, including me. I've made them in the past. And let's just go to GitHub now. My repository should be pushed. It is a public repository. All right. Okay, if we just go to my repositories, there should be a backend dash session. Yeah. So as you can see, this is my repository where I just pushed all my code. So let's just go to render.com. And you can just log in using your GitHub ID so it can connect to all your repositories. Let's just go to the dashboard, just create a new, just go to new, select web service, and then connect your repository. Here we'll be connecting our backend dash test repository. Here we can add the service name. So we'll just add backend dash session. Okay, all right, this is not the repository. Wait, just give me one sec. Okay, yeah, this is okay. This is right. Backend or test. The region, let's just select Singapore for now because it's closest to us in India. The branch, it is the main branch. All right. So let's go to the root directory. The root directory will be source, so let's just leave it like that. Our runtime will be a node, so let's do node. Our build command will be npmi, so we can install all the packages that we have used, such as Mongo's, Express, and stuff other than that. Let's just go to the start command. Here we can just do we can just write node index, and this is a start command, which we used earlier. We can also use node mod here, but doesn't matter because we're using a free instance. We just this. Okay, these are all the services. Let's just go to advanced and add a secret file. So let's just do a .env, and let me just paste the file contents of my .env here, which is my MongoDB URI, and let's just save this. So the Mongo URI is also added. And let's just keep it auto deploy. Auto deploy means so whenever you make a new commit and push any changes to your GitHub repository, it will automatically read those commits and deploy it for you. So let's go to create a web service. All right. I'll also be sharing the GitHub repository link so you guys can like use it and just play around with it. Okay, so as we can see, it has started building our app. Till then, I'll send the GitHub repository. All right, someone just put up the repository link in the comments. Just wait for a few minutes. Till then, as we can see, it has deployed our app and the server started. So if we go to this URL, which it has given, which is backend or test and some random other stuff, we can just go and test it. As you remember, we made the okay. So if we just go to user slash all, we can since this is a GET request, we can just run it in a browser. So let's go to user slash all. Okay, I think it is just starting. Just wait for it to start. Okay, still deploying. All right. Just give it 1 minute more. Let me see the deploy still then. Okay, the deploy is live. All right. All right. So as you can see, all the users that we stored in the DB, we can see them, and it is deployed. And it is also deployed on an HTTPS server, so you can use it with your front-end apps as well. If you make any app and deploy it on Vercel or anything or Netlify, so you can just use it like this. I'll just copy this URI here and show it here also. Like as you can see in Postman. So if I just send user slash all, as you can see, these are all the users that we just made. So that is nice. Okay. So that is it for our hands-on session on building a very simple CRUD app. Before we finish this session, there's one more thing I'd like to add, which is the architecture. Okay, so basically in our CRUD app, because this was very simple CRUD app, there was only like a very basic three-layer architecture, which was models, routes, and like an index.js. Okay, in a very in a nice medium scale project, you'll have more layers. So there'll be a layer called a middleware, which will basically store your middleware functions. So middleware functions, from the name middleware, are functions which run before the request. So you can, if you go to the index.js, if there's you add any middleware, so before any request gets passed to the user router, that function will run. And that's how so middleware is, you can use middleware to like verify the user if the user is allowed to create that request, and if the verify middleware fails, then it returns a response that this user is not allowed. So there's like a middleware layer as well. Then there's also something called utils. In the utils folder, you store the functions which are used for utility, like a token generator or a token validator, and a email upload, a send email function, a storage function for like storing things on the S3 bucket on AWS, for example, for storing images, etc. And then there's one last layer which I like to add, which is the services. Okay, not the service, the services layer. In the services layer, the business logic of your app goes. So if there's like any business logic, like calculations or anything like that, that goes in the services layer. So that's it for the hands-on session. I've also explained the architecture as well, and we've deployed our app as well. All right. Okay. So before we end, just let me go to our PPT back. Let me just stop sharing for 1 second. Okay, there's one more thing. Before we end, I'd like to open, if there's any questions or answers, I'd like to open a QA round. Wait, let me just, I'll read your comments and like, okay, before we start, let me just, okay, we can just have any questions. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comments. Okay, so somebody is asking, can you deploy your backend on Vercel? Okay, so as of now, you cannot deploy the backend on Vercel like this particular app, but with the introduction of Next 13, there is something called serverless functions. So on Vercel, using the app router, there are ways where there's basically, you can write some serverless functions which can act as like a server, and you can basically deploy a very simple backend over there, even though I suggested to be like very simple functions instead of like creating a full blown backend over there, because it's kind of hard to like maintain and scale. So that's what I would suggest. Okay, so somebody else asked, what is GraphQL? So GraphQL is also a type of, what should I say? It is a type of web application. No, it's not a web application. It is type of API, I guess. Basically, you can instead of like having predefined routes like user slash create, user slash find, user slash update, you in GraphQL you can explore the API instead of just having static routes. So you can just do a user. If you send a GraphQL request, you can do users and then also query some more stuff like users and the details of the user, like users email and password and stuff like that. So it is a very interesting concept. You guys should probably check GraphQL out as well. Okay, somebody is asking, how do I start on backend? Any recommendations? So the channel that I learned from was Web Dev Simplified. He's an amazing guy. You can go over to his channel, and he also has a lot of like a few courses as well. And you can basically look at them on YouTube. He teaches backend very well. Okay, so did you use EJS or vanilla HTML? Okay, sadly I didn't use any HTML or EJS. We didn't have any views or routes. So that's it. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else has any questions? All right. Some okay. Okay, somebody's asking they've seen an HTML video. Why can't we use some same HTML in Node.js? Actually, you can. There's something called views in Node.js. You can use them to render a HTML code as well. So if you create a folder called views, you can basically do a res.render and you can render HTML files as well. Okay, today we're not covering that, but you can go explore that, creating views using EJS in Node.js. All right. Does anybody else have any questions? If everybody is done asking questions, that then let's wrap up. Okay, any website where I can read about backend? Any website? Honestly, I just try to find some articles on Medium or something else. There's also Fireship. His channel is amazing. Go check him out. He makes really good videos. He also has a site where you can see his courses and stuff like that. Okay, so that I think that answers everything. I'll be wrapping up. My name was Shivam Sharma, and thank you for this. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to take this session. All right. Bye, guys.